All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy.
All right, welcome back to the KissFAQ podcast. I'm your trigger-happy host today. My bandhammer finger's been itching on the board this week, so I just skipped. I got the show started a whole 3 seconds early. I want to thank everyone who's joining us live. It looks like there's quite an active audience already there.
Cool.
So hopefully we'll have a good conversation and we can get some of your thoughts and opinions into what we talk about today. Who's here today? We got 69th Blizzard Ken.
Hey.
And this is going to be his topic today, so he's got some explaining to do, because I didn't understand what we're supposed to be talking about. We've also got Daniel joining us, staying out in the sunlight. You're not camping this week, and...
Actually, I saw the first snow today. A few flakes came down from the sky.
Yeah, we see snowflakes every day, so that's all right. We've also got Marcus Almighty Mark. Good to see you, Mark.
Greetings. How's everybody
Mark,
doing?
it's been a while since I've asked you what's going on in Project Gemini land. I mean, the last I heard, you were shipping LPs out to your distributors in various markets. So what's going on?
So this is ironic. Thank you for asking, Julian, because I did actually just make a video last night. I haven't uploaded it yet because I wanted to save. My bandwidth gets crazy near the end of the month. You know, it's not unusual for me to just suddenly get cut off and then all of a sudden have to reattach myself because of the bandwidth at the end of the month. Anyways, so all the stuff that I've had to send is sent. There's just a few records here that people ordered after the fact that I just have to go out on Monday, and then everything's done. So I'm on cycle number 10 now of records. My next record is already done, mixed, everything, got the album cover, got everything done. The Gemini Club people will be receiving a package in the mail within the next week or two of various tidbits and odds and ends about the next record, which is Project Gemini Canada. It's called Stories and Legends is the name of the record. I really like this record. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to promoting it because I have a lot of interesting little small videos that I'm making for it to promote the album itself. It's going to be very based around Canada and, you know, some of the legends that come with this country and some of the fabled stories and things like that. So if you know nothing about this country, this might be an interesting record for you to get. So, and all you Gemini Club people, like I said, you'll be getting a nice little package with some factoids and other things in there as well. You know how I am with that kind of stuff. I always like to do these little extra send outs. So look forward to that. The first single, The Lost Generation, will be coming out on Canada Thanksgiving Day, which is the 14th of October on a Monday. And then the album itself is going to be coming out, well, first digitally, of course, until I get the other stuff, the CDs and the vinyl. Digitally, it'll be coming out on Halloween Day. That day, the album will be out as well. And a very special thank you to our very own Voice of Reason, who has, at the last minute, made a very fantastic cover for my single, The Lost Generation. He made one for me, and it looks spectacular, and you will all get to see it. Probably in the next update, I'll probably put a little quick post of it to promote the single and stuff like that. So thank you again, Ken, for your fine work. I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody gives the song a listen and gets the record.
Well, speaking about book covers and stuff, shouldn't we ask the audience what they want Julian Gill's next book to look like? War Machine.
I already know what we should look like.
Yeah, Ken has already told you, but it would be interesting to see what the viewers says about the cover, because we have you had so great covers for the last few books, like Mass Hysteria, such a great cover, and then The Elder, of course. The Elder book was awesome.
That was Nils.
Yeah. And Paul Jean
was Nils.
Which order was? Yeah,
Nils did that one twice because of the legal issues.
Yeah, that's true. So
and he did Crazy Nights, and then Chris Hoffman did both of the Aerosmith books. But you know what? It's War Machine, and it's 82 to 84. There's only one thing that it can be based on, because that period is all about the tank. The ank wank on the tank. I like using that.
That's a classic.
Tank on the tank.
what it just needs is an artistic interpretation of how to blend those two eras and the metamorphosis of a band from its mass guys into, going from superheroes to regular schmucks. So the superhero reverse move. So it'll be interesting. Claudio Bergman did the last cover for Mask Hysteria, and he absolutely hit a home run. I came in with a concept. Here's the promo photo, basically, for Kiss Unmasked. It gets a little bit more difficult for a work that's going to straddle two eras. And just in case you haven't been on the fact this week, or the FAQ, I did get a printed draft.
Ooh.
Show that one again. That looked great.
It's.
Well, send it
There
to me
you go.
so I can check. Make sure.
Well, right now it's 300 and something pages written, and that's how much is done.
Sure, you didn't miss it.
But I've reached the point where working off digital Adobe, drafts just becomes very difficult. So I've got to be able to flip it open, see what's missing. See, a lot of the newspaper stuff obviously has been enhanced for print. So I've got to see how it looks in print because it needs to be readable. With some of the ephemera, ticket stubs, and all that, and it lets me see what's missing. And I did a massive post on the FAQ of things that I'd love to be able to add in. Check it out. Especially Finland is very lacking. I do have some magazines from that period, which I am able to translate to get the gist of what's going on in that country. But Germany is a barren desert.
Really? You would just think it wouldn't be.
Well, you've got the magazine coverage, but I don't have the newspaper stuff, which is, really, really what it's doing. Yeah, actually, what the cover should be is shooting the character from the Odyssey cover out of the end of the tank. Yeah, but blowing up the purple headband.
Yes.
No more concept. So that's where it is. Check out the FAQ post because again, I don't do pre-orders. I don't do estimates to publication. When I did Mask Hysteria and I did my first physical print, it was about 4 to 6 months, I think, before I finished up. But this one, because it straddles multiple areas and there's so many areas that I do want to dig into, I got legal contracts to go through to try and translate into something that every fan can understand because it does drive the period. So you got to have some of the legal story, but you don't want it just to be here, the things figured out for yourself. And I'm not a lawyer. So there we go. That's. I don't really want to say too much more than that. I am looking into maybe doing a few of the chapters that are just narrative as magazine features, because they can serve both purpose as well. Get the story out there to be enjoyed. And again, all this shit's going to be up on the FAQ anyway, just like all my books have been, free to read for people who don't want to purchase. So we had a topic to talk about this week, Ken, and before we get into that, I also want to call out Ken for the great work he's doing on the artwork for the FAQ. If you subscribe through Spotify or iTunes, then you see the show graphics every week. You don't see them on the video feed because it's just no way to do those as such, and I want to keep a certain amount of consistency to the look on YouTube. But the ones that he does for the audio are absolutely fantastic. They're quirky, they're fun, and they're coming from a place that I'm just not capable of generating stuff from. So thank you, Ken.
Yes, absolutely.
You're muted.
You're muted, by the way.
You're welcome. I just got to say that a lot of the, I get help from AI. So the AI is...
I get help from AI too.
Difficulty. It's difficult working with, the AI and telling it, and where I'm having to imagine what I'm imagining to a degree where sometimes most of the time it's wrong. But it takes quite a while to get it to do what
it's all in the prompting
kind of thing. So anyway, the training thing. It's training me and I'm training it at the same time.
Yep. Mark, you had one more thing before we get into the topic?
Yeah, just really quickly, I just wanted to just ask all of you, but I'm curious mainly of Ken because I know Ken's love and devotion of this band is second to none. So this vinyl box set that just came out of the Destroyer, and the $1,000 one there. Did you purchase it?
No.
Okay.
The same way
There is
I
some
did not
sanity in the
purchase.
world. Okay.
Yeah, I did not purchase Creatures. The question: could I purchase it? I could purchase it. I could just buy it if I wanted.
But you're
to.
sane enough not to buy it at that price.
At that price, it's just
Really, like 1,000. When I
the
saw that, I was
value
like,
is
that's in the
not
U.S. too.
the
So for me,
value
it's
is
like
not there, and I have the regular, the CD.
And I'll say one thing too. This is the first time ever that I've seen on Facebook an overwhelming amount of people saying, "Are you insane? I'm not buying it." Like usually it's like, "Oh, I'm going to buy it. It's still I'm supporting the." But this time, I think people are finally getting a little fed up with these overinflated prices now.
Did you see the typos on the T-shirts, by the way?
No.
No, I
Oh,
didn't. No.
really?
John's, and I'm not American, so I shouldn't throw stones at anyone
What'd it
getting
say?
states and cities wrong, because
Oh, no.
immediately after checking the typos on the T-shirt, I did go over to my site just to make sure I didn't have any of the same typos, and I
It's a
did have one. Yeah, I have typos. I'm kind of known for typos, but they had Johnson City in Washington, and they had Indianapolis in Illinois,
Ooh.
which
Oh.
on the back of T-shirts. And one thing I have learned over the years, going back to the original days of the Focus, which I just can't go back and look at, it's just so atrocious, is typos should not get into merchandise, especially at that price, let alone having, what was the upsell on the colored vinyl, Mark? Was it like $60 per unit per
Yeah,
LP?
at least.
Price
Yeah.
difference? Yeah.
Yeah. That's
No,
insane.
there's a reason why they are pricing it at this. This is dynamic pricing, and it is to see how far you can push the market. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of giving the market the finger. The Creatures of the Night, Glow in the Dark, again, that was a perfect product. In that Glow in the Dark LPs and Creatures in the Night works as a conceptual idea, and you're going to get a certain amount of upsell from the novelty of it, plus the lower number of units being made. So it's a lot smaller market that they're trying to appeal to, but they're also seeing, is that the same market that is buying bases, who now doesn't have any concerts to go to buy the VIP experiences to? Again, no one's putting a gun to anyone's head to buy these, but the Destroyer one doesn't have the same upsell in my mind that the Creatures one did, in that you have the glow in the dark component. I mean, what the fuck is the concept behind that? Is that the Calliope print?
That's splatter.
It's like some splatter print there.
They missed the boat, because if they would have released the vinyl at the same time as the CDs, when they all, came out that time, you might have been able to. I think they would have sold a lot more copies.
Well, because everybody would be excited.
Faster.
Then, right?
Yeah, you have to take advantage of the excitement and all that stuff. So, I probably would have bought one, had it came out, at the time. But now I just no, it's past.
No, I'm really happy with my digital. Obviously I do have I've got the box sets for the CDs for both of the units. But the digital is the one. I listen to digital music. I want it on my iPhone so I can walk around and listen to that glorious live. I'm more pissed off this week. And sorry, we will get into this topic, people, but there are some fun tangents just to go off on. And someone did mention whether there's still life for a compilation for Kiss. And I was like, Kiss 50 was a concept. I came up with a Kiss 50 concept. Obviously, they weren't doing anything, so it was a pointless concept. But I still think there should be Kiss Alive 5, 50-50. Play off the 5, play off the 50, and do 50 live songs through the band's career in a similar manner to how Motley Crue did Entertainment or Death. 50 live Kiss songs. That would be a completely new spin on a compilation. And I think it would be a fun... Imagine listening to a 50-song Kiss show. And every song is different, but you still get Rock and Roll All Night, Detroit Rock City, and Black Diamond and everything at the end of the show. I mean, I think that would actually be fun, and it would cover both grounds of celebrating the group's 50 years. Obviously, they weren't on tour every one of those 50 years, but there are recordings from the vast majority of the band's career. So let's just quickly do that. Daniel, room for a compilation still?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's still room for compilation, but you have to, have an angle, a new way of approaching it. I think collect, finding deep cuts and doing stuff with that. That's what we like. We don't need another version of some of the more famous songs, but get into the deep cuts, find the live versions, add a version, like if you put out like 50 songs, Mark St. John playing I've Had Nothing Through the Fire or something. I don't know if he played that one in Poughkeepsie or if it didn't, but put some effort into it, make it unique, make it a collection that we've never seen before, and please include all eras of the band, not just the makeup era. Please put some focus on the 80s and early 90s because there are some great live stuff from those eras. I'd like to see something from South America '94, maybe even an odd tune from the Foundations Forum in '93, where they play like really deep cuts. So if you put the effort into it, it could be interesting.
Could be fun. And I don't know, Pop House is looking for, new ideas. Time to think outside the box, guys. What's been done, what hasn't been done. If you guys own the rights, we'll start thinking. You should already have had a plan, number one, excuse me,
Yeah.
of what you wanted to do with the rights that you were buying, unless you didn't know what you were buying. And if you didn't know what you were buying, then you're pretty fucking stupid. To not have have bought first and figured out what you actually bought later is not a good business plan. But there are so many different ways of looking at. There are a whole bunch of logistic issues about any of this stuff that we kind of bang on about week in and week out, and that is a nice segue in today's topic. Ken, take us away. Take yourself off mute and then take us away.
I'm not.
Okay, just checking there.
Believe it or not.
What are we talking about this week, and how are you framing this conversation?
Well, I came up with the idea of the your 5 favorite, your top 5 go-tos. Now that Kiss has been retired for almost a year, now a couple months. It's going to be a year, and there's really not a lot going on. Usually there's a lot of activity more activity, especially when they're on tour and that sort of stuff. Now there's been nothing really much other than the little releases and things like that come out. So I was thinking, for myself at least, thinking, I still have ways to enjoy the band, and how do I keep myself interested in Kiss? I didn't retire from being a fan of Kiss. I'm not retiring that myself. So I was thinking, there's some things that I think it would be interesting to hear what people go to, while that Kiss is retired, and there's all kinds of audio, video, books, could be clothing, collecting, a number of things that people do to keep their interest, keep their love for Kiss going, because it's not over in that sense. If your love for Kiss keeps going on, you have interest, and you keep going to certain kinds of media or whatever to make you happy, actually, because you're not going to go see Kiss live anymore. I don't know if we're going to get any more documentaries and other stuff, but there are other things out there still, the past stuff that we have, music, of course, and so on. And I just was interested in what people want to what they listen to, what they want to see, or what they want to collect and stuff like that. So
What do you do to keep their interest still in the band?
yeah, I mean, what keeps your interest still?
It's not over.
What do you do?
Playing the backing tracks.
Yeah, like for instance, yes, just as an example, yesterday I played the vinyl. I played the music from The Elder.
You have to say you played a vinyls. You have to say it plural
I
to
said
trigger
vinyl.
people.
No, I
Say
don't say
vinyls.
vinyls. I do not say vinyls. So anyway, that's one of the things. Just how do we keep our interest, and what are your go-tos?
Well,
Top five.
Let's frame this with a quick kind of perspective of how we now look back at December 2023. Has the salt in the wound evaporated or dissipated?
Mm.
How do you perceive the end of the band? Because how you perceive the end of the band in December kind of colors you going forward from there, Daniel. I mean, when you look back to December 2023 now, has your opinion changed or developed about the end of Kiss?
I never thought they would end it in any other way than the way they did it. So I wasn't surprised. I wasn't disappointed. I knew they would just do another show. But I think it was kind of a good way to end stuff. Kiss will always be known for the 70s. Any way you put it, any way you measure it, it will be a 70s band. But I think the ending was it was pretty good. Thinking back, I really enjoyed the last. I don't know how long that final tour was. Was it like 3 or 4 years? I enjoyed that tour a lot. I think it was what do you call it when they do the lap after they have won a medal at the
the victory lap.
The victory lap, yes.
Yes.
It was like a victory lap. I remember when the tour started. If you go back and listen to the episodes we did, that I didn't think it would last that long. I didn't think the audience would be interested, but it sure as hell was a victory lap. And over here they sold out every gig they did, and I was at almost every gig, and I had a lot of fun being there, and I enjoyed it. And we all knew the help Paul got and all of that, but being there, seeing the fans, it was a great celebration. And I don't know what they could have done differently at the end. Well, they could have brought Bruce on stage. It would been, I think it would have been kind of strange. They could have shown Eric Carr, a video of Eric Carr. Well, I don't know. I think the final tour actually was a great tour, giving the problems the band had. I think they did the most of it. They made the most of it.
I've ranted about my open jaw response to the Avatar announcement being there on the floor in my own bubble and perception. None of that has changed. That I think the transition from an active band to the future was awkwardly done, poorly implemented and executed, horrendously communicated, and I don't think we have any further information that even helps fill in the blanks from that point. But looking back at December 2023, what they did with that play, regardless of my subjective, objective, whatever opinion, it was a mic drop on the band's active career. It was full stop. There was no no ellipsis here, no incomplete thought. It was mic drop and out. And Gene hits the road without makeup, doing his thing. So looking back to December 2023, it was probably the best way to end it with the coup de grace as possible. They stuck a fork in it, one way or the other. Mark?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's I don't know. I'm kind of odd. I have an odd view on this, to be quite honest, because I've always thought that Kiss, like growing up, I always saw Kiss as the band that did that one extra step. That did the one, really put their fans, in front when I was younger, right? Like this is what this is the one thing that separated them from some of the other bands, And if there was ever a band that could have made some really spectacular grand finale to something, I always thought it could have been Kiss. They always projected that vision that, money was never an object for their live shows and this and that. We would always do whatever we could to make it be the most spectacular thing. I mean, Gene's famous saying, this is we're the big boys. We show how the other bands should do it. So when I thought about a final Kiss show, I remember on some of the episodes that we talked about, like, where would they play it? I always had these visions of, like, Central Park or somewhere really big, 500,000 people and this and that. And let's make it a big way. I know, bring bring Peter or those guys back, even for like 1 or 2 songs or something like that. If this is gonna be the end, then make it something that's gonna be memorable. Yes, I know I do have an odd view on things, but if you're gonna make it the end, make it memorable. The thing with me, even though they did that whole thing at the end with the Avatar thing, which is supposed to be some big spectacular thing. The problem with me with the whole end of the show is that it just isn't very memorable to me, to be quite honest. It was just like any other show they did, except that they were saying this is it, and now we're done. So I mean, I'm sure there's been many other bands that have gone out on a higher note. I can't help but think of bands like what's that band that did the Last Waltz? I keep forgetting their name.
The band.
The band.
Yeah, the band. There you go.
The band.
So, but look at them.
Band.
Look at them. They bring out all these guest people and all these things. They make a spectacular live album out of it and everything. That's the way to go out. What Kiss did is nothing. That's just like, we just played a show and that's the end of it. So to me, do I have a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth? Maybe a little bit, but I mean, I'm not gonna, like, I don't hold on to it forever. But that's just how I kind of view it. I mean, if you're gonna end things, I don't know if you can say I'm wrong about that over here, but I just think that they kind of ended it melodramatically, in my opinion.
Just real quick, I think. Just real quick, I just have to say that Madison Square Garden was the place to end stuff. I think that's the perfect place for them to end, and so I was satisfied with them picking that arena. And they played 2 nights, both nights were sold out, so I think that's a good way to go out.
Yeah, Sylvie's right. It was also about coming together as people.
Yeah,
but
always.
They didn't do the tech rehearsal for the effects until Baltimore, which was just days before. I think they got tied up with the tech not being ready, and just because when you rely on tech being ready and you've got a tour with a here's the stop date, it's got to be ready, but the tech doesn't live according to those sorts of timelines. And when it does, it ends up being like what it was. They wanted to do a Bilbo Baggins. Puff of smoke, thank you, and now I'm leaving. And because the tech wasn't ready, it was more of a fizzle. Ken?
Yeah, that whole thing, the ending, I think they should have done something bigger, and either by adding more songs or definitely including former band members. If they really wanted to do it, they could have made it happen, I think. But the problem is they're too structured to go outside the box.
Yeah.
They're like, it has to be this way, and it's going to always be this way. It's always going to be the set list. We're not veering off any way from what we do. So them even trying to think about doing something extra for Madison Square Garden, it was just another show date. Yes, the last one, but it's just another date on their tour. Really. Yeah, I wasn't there at that one. I was at 3 other shows during that the road 4-year tour or whatever it was. But I just, in a way, I'm not glad I missed it totally, but then again, I am glad on the other hand that I missed it, because I saw it already. I saw everything.
But you have to think back. I remember, weren't Julian and Ken at the first show in Vancouver? Weren't you there?
No, he was at the very
you were
first
there.
one.
Yeah. And
You
I
went
remember
to-
watching that. I tried not to watch too much because I didn't want to know everything, but I was blown away. If you look back on the previous tour, they really stepped it up during this final Victory Lap.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think
much better.
if you look at the tour as a whole, I think it was a great success. They put in a lot of money into the production. For once, they changed things up, and I think it was a great tour, and I truly enjoyed every show I was at.
Yeah, we podcasted that night after the first show, which is why we had to do it after the last show, which kind of screwed things up for me hanging out with people. But my dedication to the podcast is such that I will sacrifice fun for the show. It was, again, great. That first show, it was a hell of a moment.
Yeah,
no doubt about it for me, having seen them in 2017, seeing them on the tub when they pulled the rehearsal set list on us, basically on the cruise, and they did take it up a notch. It had all the elements. 4 years later, everything's going to be dated, but imagine for the group, for Gene and Paul in particular, 50 years of Groundhog Day, doing the same shit, basically, spitting blood, blowing flyers, fire.
Flower, that'd be great.
It's tough.
Yeah, that's a pretty good film, Groundhog Day.
I love Groundhog Day. That was a classic.
Cool film. Yeah.
Let's get into the first thing that is keeping your fandom alive in this desert and route of.
Start at number 5, I guess. Yeah.
Well, or whichever order you want to go, and maybe just with your first pick, explain how you're selecting your 5, whether they come from the same sort of media or other sorts of media or whatever. And Ken, since this is your topic, if you're off mute, please begin.
I am off mute. All right. One of my selections, I think it was like number 5 on my list. Are reading books, whether they're the new books, Julian's going to have a new book, and I'm going to read that whenever that makes its way out.
Jean's going to have a book on Belgium and Holland.
There's other books, right, that continue to come out, and like the other one I just got recently too. So. New and actually even going back, rereading older books. Like I was looking at Nothing to Lose, that book the other day. I was just going more for the comments about the songs, because at the last half of the book or whatever, they have the band's comments about, and other people about the tracks, each of their songs throughout their career. I find that interesting when I'm either listening to a record or we need to do something for the podcast. Sometimes I'll look at just see what they say about the song, what they thought about it or the album. But yeah, and rereading other older books. There's so many of them, but every now and then I'll pull one out and I haven't read that, Kiss and Sell in a long time, and it's a great book, and I'll go back and read it again or something like that. So books is one of the things that I like to read about the band and remember things. I do remember most of it, but there's lots of things. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It's always good.
Yeah, Ken. Not Ken. Mark.
Again? Okay. Next.
Well, one of the things I tend to do, and I've always found that for me, it's always kept my spark alive with bands, whether it's Kiss or other bands, is I like collecting T-shirts. As you guys know, I'm a big collector of that. I mean, I have not a lot. I have a fair amount of Kiss T-shirts now, and I like collecting them. And one of the things I find now is that whenever they do these, releases of something now, like even the recent one, instead of looking at the vinyl, which I still have interest in, obviously, I tend to go and look at what kind of T-shirt designs they have now whenever they put out something now. So I try to pick out something. And my goal at the end of the day is going to be, I would like to get at least one T-shirt from every record, like to represent at least one from each record. So T-shirts for me, I think, are very important. I mean, whether you realize it or not, wearing a T-shirt and wearing it out in public, you're kind of almost promoting the band, whether you know it or not, because there's been more than a few times where I went out, even just recently, I had my Unmasked shirt on, and I was going to, I think I was walking into Tim Hortons, and one guy was coming out of the drive-thru, and he stopped and looked at me and goes, "Hey, cool shirt." I go, "Thanks." He goes, "I've been a long-time Kiss fan, like 30 years, 40 years." Like he was, and so it started a whole conversation with a totally random person I've never even met before. And it was because of this shirt, right? Because it's very, you can't get that confused with who that is on that shirt, right? So I've always enjoyed wearing them. I think that it makes a statement, and I'll always go and collect those, until probably my dying day. I love collecting them, even if I'm not going to be wearing them at 80 years old. But I'll probably still have them just like as a keepsake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you,
Absolutely.
Daniel?
Well, just to comment on the other guys' picks, I think reading Kiss books is always going to be something that I'll continue to do, and I'm really looking forward to the 2 books from Julian that's in the works. And T-shirts, I don't know. I have so many Kiss T-shirts. I don't know what, but I've been trying to find a cool Kiss T-shirt without the logo. That's really hard to find.
Oh, without
I don't. I would like someone to see.
Yeah.
I don't want the logo because I want guys to understand. Wow, that's Kiss without the logo. I'm a bit tired of the logo. It's everywhere. So I just want a cool T-shirt without the logo. If someone out there knows of a T-shirt that looks like that, please write it in the comments. But for me, it's always been about music and the community, I think. So these are my notes. I don't have a lot of notes for this podcast today, but in 5th position, I've written attending live shows. Well, there are no more live shows. Well, not from the band, but Gene Simmons. Hopefully, Ace Frehley will get across the pond next summer. I hope he get his passport in order and all of that. And IRS and stuff. You'll never know. I've actually never seen a solo show with Ace, so that would be really cool. But I did attend the Gene Simmons show. We all talked about it. And even though it wasn't the greatest show I've seen, it's, the community, meeting people, going to a Kiss quiz before the show, going to dinners, talking Kiss, and then finally go to the Kiss show. I enjoyed it, even though it was way better a few years back. But I might go to like Kiss tribute bands and stuff like that if they start to pop up a bit more. It was a while since I saw a Kiss tribute band. So, but attending live shows, if they play Kiss music, tribute bands, Gene Simmons, that's always going to be a big part for me, and in my Kiss fandom. So attending live shows as long as it's possible, I love that. Oh, yeah. Now you have a ticket for Rock the Rose, Kiss and Rush tribute.
Very good.
A double whammer, yeah.
That's a good one.
That was actually really good.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
I haven't put my list in any order. In fact, I didn't do a list because I'm just free-forming this into what, in this moment, I think of as my top 5. Number 1 is what we're doing right now. We are communing. We used to do this at concerts. We do this in person from afar. We get together with friends and talk about Kiss, and this includes everyone who's watching later, who's on the live stream right now. It doesn't matter when you're watching it. We are still, I'm not going to get all wax lyrical and go, we are one and all that kind of kumbaya shit. But we're celebrating and discussing the band that we love, and it continues to enthuse for me, inspire. Being invited to do the Let Me Know podcast episode this year, which, was 60 hours of work to put together a 43-minute, podcast. Writing and recording the script and tarting it up with audio. And I know there are people who do it better than me. You can probably do it in a third the time. More power to you. But I actually like the process.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic. It's torturous. It's unpleasant. It's not fun, especially when you have to punch in something that you've screwed up. But again, as a creator, it's still something that gets me off. The Inner Sanctum podcast that I've done with Andrew this year, 11 episodes, is the same thing. The demo stories, which I did over Christmas and the New Year, the 12 Days of Christmas last year, is another. So continuing to do things that primarily entertain myself first, and then if other people happen to like them, it's an added bonus. So always getting together on this podcast week in, week out, we find something to talk about. We're now rehashing things that we've talked about years and years ago with podcasts, refocused episodes, diving back into albums that are having their anniversaries, going on other shows and talking with a new audience, and not being the dictator who leads the conversation, being a follower who is quiet until spoken to. It's fun. So watching other people do the same thing, and I'm trying to start to listen to more of other people's podcasts as well, because I've always stayed away from it out of a fear in some ways of ripping off their ideas or their content, and just trying to come from an original perspective. But you know what? Nothing's original. Steal from the best, right? So that's my first one. All right. Number 2. Let's go back to Mark for his second pick.
Actually, the funny thing is you kind of touched on the one I was going to talk about next, and that is I find that what keeps my fire going with KISS is the podcast and these kind of things that you were talking about, which I think is essential. I mean, one of the things I listen to quite a bit is I really enjoy listening back to those focused things that at first I think it was you and Ken did it, where you did the one on Peter Chris, and then he did one on Paul, and then he did one on Gina. He did like individual 45-minute segments on each person's origin stories.
Yeah, the podcast that was podcast refocused.
Yeah,
that was Ken Mills.
Those ones were I find are essential listens, in my opinion, if you're unfamiliar with the early introduction of where these people came from musically. So I highly recommend listening to those. The song segments that you've done over those last couple of seasons are fantastic. I mean, just listening to some of the early demo versions of some of the songs that were done are great to have in such a collective, easy to find place. Like if you want to know something about 100,000 years, boom, you go to this and listen to it. And it's just absolutely fantastic. These kind of podcasts that we do ourselves are great. Keeps my fire burning with it. And I have to admit, I listen to a lot of other ones as well. I mean, Shout It Out Loud cast. I listen to even Ken's podcast whenever they do put up a new episode, and even if it doesn't even have to be a new one. I've gone back to some of their old Christmas episodes. I went back to some of their album focuses. I even listen to History Science Theater sometimes. I have old episodes of that on CD so I could bring it in the car to listen to sometimes. I've made CD versions of them. So for me, these things are important because not only because the information on it, but it also brings back this feeling that I had, because when I first discovered these things, it was an exciting time for me. Oh, I didn't know that there was a podcast about this. And they were talking about solo albums and going through all kinds of different iterations of how they could have been, I would have made an album like this. They shouldn't have put this song on, this and that, like all kinds of discussions and opinions and stuff like that. And, at first it was just a small amount, and there was 3 sides. There was the History Science Theater. There was maybe a Kiss Room was out as well early on. And then it just blew up after that. There's so many of them out there now. Like you could just say Kiss Podcast and there's like a whole...
Sorry, let me just stop you there for 1 second. I have to put in the contractually obligated plug for 3 sides of the coin because it will upset some people. Please continue.
Okay, I did mention him too, but it's good that Julian also put that in there too to show his love of the podcast. So, and I mean, I listened to it back when Mitch LaFon was on there too, so that's how far back I was listening to them. So, so it's definitely something that I feel keeps my fire burning. And again, I like listening to it again because of the fact that it just takes me back to that time when I was an early listener to it, when everything that came out, and I had a real excitement for the next week's episode, because at that point a lot of stuff was new that they were talking about, or things I've never heard about at that time. So it was really exciting. Now that we've done what, 500, almost 600 episodes,
Oh, Lord.
of this stuff. You're starting to go over some of the ground again, but who cares? I mean, we have new opinions on stuff, new things have happened in between then, so things have changed. That's the one good thing about Kisses. So you never stop learning new things. Julian said it 1,000 times. He's updating his books constantly because he always finds new things that come up and pop up about something. So it's great. I think it's a very good place to go to if you're wanting to learn more, or you just want to just keep that spirit alive in you.
That's nice, Mark. Thank you. Daniel, how about you? What's another one of your picks?
Well, I think I'll have to piggyback on you guys a little bit, because I wrote listening to podcasts and Kiss podcasts. I always enjoy that, and now they've been around for such a long time, so I can start re-listening to some of my favorites because I've forgotten what they talked about. And one of my favorites is for sure this one. What's it called? They dissect every song in the Kiss catalog. It's
Pot of Thunder.
Yeah, Pot of Thunder.
Pot of Thunder.
Yeah,
Legends.
so I've gone back and actually started re-listening to that podcast, and I love that one. I especially enjoy the interaction between the guys on that podcast. I like their interaction. They make fun of each other, much like we do. And it's a fun thing to listen to. And of course, there's a lot of knowledge in that podcast. They can break down a song and discuss how they play the song on drums, guitar, and the vocals and so on. So I think it's really a great take on the Kiss catalog. So I go back and listen to that one. And just the other day, I found a Kiss podcast that I had no clue existed. It's called the Asylum podcast. Never heard of that one, but they made a lot of cool shows. So I've started to listen to that one as well. So there are a lot of Kiss podcasts, and some of them I don't know if you have if you know every podcast that is around, but there seems to be loads of them, and people still keep on doing them, even though Pot of Thunder, they've done every Kiss song, so they do different songs now, and that's a thing with the Kiss podcasts. They seem to metamorph into hard rock podcasts, but I still enjoy them. They might discuss a Motley Crue album, but they're still Kiss fans, and there are small Kiss tidbits in the discussion, so you can continue listening to them. So listening to podcasts is a real important thing to me.
Yeah, well, we tried that. I mean, we have the Look It's Rock and Roll podcast on the side for when we have topics that are strictly outside the realm. But I think we've also embraced bringing more of our outside interest into this show because we have some very deep similarities, but also some pretty shocking differences in our musical taste and our backgrounds, which would just make it fun to, just like everyone else in the Kiss Army. We're all into some weird shit out there. Ken.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well just say piggyback on the piggyback kind of thing, because that was really number one on my list is actually our meeting to do this podcast every week between you guys and Lonnie and so on, doing this podcast and talking about Kiss, and I mean that's the real main thing that keep my interest and actually enjoy talking about Kiss, because there's I don't have anyone else to talk to Kiss about other than you guys and that sort of thing, and then community, and on beyond that, yes, and other podcasts, listening to other podcasts and listening other their viewpoints on different subjects that they're talking about as far as KISS goes, and so on. There, like Daniel said, there's a lot of KISS podcasts out there, and sometimes I'll just listen to one if it looks like an interesting subject, and I'll check it out. And some of them are, they're pretty good. There's a lot of good podcasts out there. So yeah, it's all about the community thing, and this is like a community get together, like-minded to a degree. Like-minded being we all love KISS, but yes, we have our different favorites of things and music that KISS did, and what we think is the best version of KISS and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. That's all good. But yeah, it's this meeting every week is the number one thing for me. That keeps my interest in KISS, and I want to do it. I like to do it. So I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't enjoy it. So
yeah, I just want to chime in with one thought on podcasts. What the KISS community really needs around the realm of podcast. So Pod of Thunder went some way to do it, but we need a podcast about the KISS songs that are broken down in a way that Rick Beato might. So someone who could really speak to performance, technique, the technicality of music writing and performance and nuance. If anyone's ever seen the Art of Guitar's YouTube channel and some of the breakdowns that they've done on, they had a great episode on, I thought Peter Criss's drumming was easy until I tried to do it myself. And he was talking about ghost notes and other elements in that come into playing. So he thought things were phasing done by the sound guy, but it's actually a ghost note being played live, which is a lot more difficult to do than having your sound man put in something. So he gained a new level of respect. So I would love to see someone with that level of music theory, but also be able to translate it into an entertaining and understandable thing for the layman, because I really don't want to sit through a music theory course. I want it to be explained to me with some castor oil and sugar, to help the medicine go down, but also understand the concepts from a macro view. That would be very cool. And it's I try sometimes and I give up. It's just, no one's got that level of education to be talking about music in that way. That very few people do. But that'd be my wish for podcasts in the future and undiscovered country. And maybe it'd be boring as fuck, but who knows? What would be my next one? My next item is strictly around continuing to search for and uncover previously unheard recordings. That remains a personal passion. It's been a good year. And hopefully the fruits of the good year will eventually be shared in public. But now I take a different view to it. Now I take a view of how can these recordings that get uncovered be officially released and properly dealt with and handled. So that's always going to be a goal. So if you're sitting on unreleased recordings, come see me.
Is that
Daniel.
all you're going to say? Is that all you're going to say about the stuff you've discovered? No hints.
Why cocktease?
Because we're KISS fans and want to know everything. So
no,
is this 70s era, 80s era, 90s era?
I'm not even going to say, because again, there's no point torturing people. Just know that stuff is still being discovered. There is stuff, but for the vast majority of it, if it's a shitty audience recording, that's a completely different matter. Because an audience recording versus a good recording that can be commercially leveraged is a completely different kettle of fish. The audience recordings, I'll buy for a couple $100 a master tape, get them properly transferred, get them properly kind of mastered and sweetened. And then a fucking bootlegger comes along and people are blowing their wad like Cartman and South Park over a silver CD pressed in Japan, like it's the end all be all, whereas the master audio is all that matters, not how it's painted up to be a tart. So no, I'm not going to drop any hints at all, because again, that's just mean.
I had to give it a try. But if you know Ace Frehley, the Ace Frehley book, maybe he should look through his vaults and do something.
Maybe he shouldn't have left his with Rachel. But let's move
How the
on
hell-
to your
yeah.
next pick.
Yeah, I just love to see his stuff that he did on the Elder. I hope that comes out someday. Well, one of my picks is learning Kiss songs on the guitar. I still enjoy learning Kiss riffs, Kiss solos, and Kiss stuff on the guitar. There are so many songs, I haven't learned all of them, and I guess the episodes me and Mark did on the Kiss riffs sort of made me interested in learning new Kiss songs again. It was for a while I didn't learn a lot of them, but he played some stuff for me, Mark, and actually made me listen to the songs in a different way. You know, when you only hear the guitar, you can kind of get a new interpretation of a song. Somehow, oh, that's a great riff. I never heard that before because it's buried in the mix, sort of. So this year, since Kiss stopped playing live, I've gone back and looked through mostly 70s stuff, like, you know, I've learned Christine 16, 2000 Man, stuff like that I've really never played before, and I really enjoyed it. My family, they don't agree.
They don't enjoy it at all, do they?
And especially when I've been... But it's kind of cool. I have a daughter that she's 13, and I played 2000 Man. I sang and I really miss Utah. That can't be right, she said. And she somehow, just by listening to me, it has to be those words. She's pretty good at it. She's better than me in English already. So, you're correct. That's the way. I sang some stuff about Ace Frehley missing Utah. It wasn't correct. So, but playing Kiss songs is still cool and fun, and I enjoy playing them on the guitar that the revenue from the KissFAQ podcast enabled me to get. So that's a cool thing.
Nice. When you guys got to do another one of those riff episodes soon.
We will.
Before the end of the year, at least, if you can.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we
schedules permitting, school permitting, and everything else. Which, since we're talking about that, Mark, your next one.
Yeah. So actually, it's ironic how each of us talk about something that almost kind of evenly flows into each other's thoughts. Because what I was going to say next is sort of what Daniel was saying, but in a different way. One of the things that I love doing that keeps my love of Kiss alive is I've been doing in the past, and I'll probably be doing it again on my next record, is I like recording Kiss covers. Like I actually have done them as bonus tracks on some of my previous releases. So whenever I've released records, I've always added in a little bonus download card, and instead of having bonus Project Gemini songs, I would have bonus songs of covers that I would do, whether it was Bowie, Rush, Kiss, and I've done a lot of Kiss songs. I mean, I did Shout It Out Loud. I did Charisma. I've done I've done a bunch of them that they're on.
Did you do I Stole Your Love?
No, I didn't do that one. But I've done quite a few different songs on there, and they're fun to do. I mean, because not only is it fun to record, but something what Julian touched on is it also gives you an opportunity to dissect the music a little bit more. What's he doing here? How's the drumming going here? Am I doing that correctly? Oh, I don't have this going on here. Bass playing, sometimes, a lot of the times I was surprised by what Gene's doing on bass. Like, it's a little bit more intricate than one would have thought, just listening to it. So you learn those things. And a lot of the thing that was fun to do too is trying to pick up some of the, the actual tones. I mean, I didn't do that too much. Like I overanalyze their sounds and try to make it sound like this. But I think maybe in the future, I might start doing that too, because that might be fun, because now I have a lot more new gear that I got, stuff that might be a little bit more easier to reinterpret, or no, not reinterpret, but recreate the sounds that they've done on their records. Like I have a thing here that does really good old Marshall tones. So that'd be great to use that now and maybe record a song from the 70s, And I really enjoy doing that. It's a lot of the times I end up, what I like about it too is I end up having to get somebody else, like let's say my friend Joe, to help me with some of the vocals. He'll do the Paul, I'll do the Gene, right? And it's fun to just have that sort of interaction again with some of my musician friends as well. And I mean, I had David Donnelly play bass on a couple of them as well. I mean, we did a bunch of songs that I think we even did like a Maiden cover of Wrathchild, and he played bass on it, right? And it's fun. Like doing Kiss songs, it's one of these things where it's number one fun. Number two, they're easy to remember. They're so engraved in my mind, so it's not a matter of relearning the song, listening to it 100 times. I already know it. It's just a matter of going through and maybe just reanalyzing what I'm playing. Am I doing it right? To what he's doing, and then just recording it. So I find that that's really kept my, love of the songs alive and love of the band alive. I mean, there's so many songs I'd love to do now. I'd love to do like Naked City or do something from Unmasked, as well, like Tomorrow or something. So, you never know. So when maybe on an upcoming Project Gemini release, sometimes check out the bonus tracks because there might be a Kiss one lying in there somewhere.
Nice. All right, Ken, you're up next.
Yeah, another one is I go to is concert videos. There's so many out there, but I always like to see the new ones that pop up that haven't seen before, or the 8mm stuff that you see pop up every now and then, and someone syncs the music to it, and that sort of thing is really really cool. Seeing some of these, like a Dynasty one was recently happened. It's just not a lot of Dynasty stuff out there, but that was pretty cool. Kind of reminded me of when I first went to see Kiss on the Dynasty tour way back, and then seeing the real old ones where people are upgrading the videos and stuff like that too. Just that kind of stuff, and even newer stuff. I will download a Pro Shot just so I have it, just thinking, okay, YouTube might go away someday, or this might go away someday. So I download it and burn it on a DVD and have it, like one of the ones like in Essentials or whatever, South America or whatever they had a couple of years ago, one of those Pro Shot ones, which are really good, where the crowd is getting into it and all that stuff. I really enjoy watching some of those concerts. So yeah, a lot of concert videos. And especially too eras that where I wasn't able to go see them, or I didn't know about Kiss yet because I didn't see them until '79. So I kind of imagine myself there on these concerts, like in 1975 or '76 or whatever, and enjoy those for what they are. So I guess that's concert videos is a pretty big one for me.
So that's 3 each so far, right?
Yeah, I think
At least.
I think so. Let's do one more each.
Yeah,
I alluded to mine earlier when I waved the rough draft of this around. This keeps my passion alive on a daily basis, continuing to dig into history, getting stacks of new memos, other material memos, newspaper articles, magazines, and just continuing to try and organize it for my own enjoyment. Again, my memory is not pinpoint anymore, so having it written down has always been kind of a mission. And again, just going back to like what I said about these, Song Story or Inner Sanctum videos, again, I do this for my own edification first, and if other people get off on it, then that's added, bonus. But I'm doing this mainly for my own entertainment. I've got like 10 different articles, sitting in various states on all sorts of weird ass topics. If anyone's ever seen Emil at Axology's articles and some of the deep dives he's done, into stuff like the remastering done for the double platinum songs, same for Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, correcting some of the stuff that I wrote long ago with new perspectives. That's what it's about. It's new discoveries, new ideas. It's just been rereading, and I think this dooms me to inevitably do a full color one on the Elder. More memos from the Elder period, which just paints a better picture. I mean, I didn't have those 10 years ago when we were doing Novelder, and it just again continues to develop the picture. History does not stand still, even though it's been done. It's not been written, and it continues to rewrite itself. So I want to call it research, but it's really the hobby of continuing to dive into. It's the only way that I can, in any way, connect my freaking degree my parents paid for with what I actually do in real life is my hobby. So keeps me out of bars.
Yes.
Since Daniel was promoting me, Daniel, you go next. Thank you, Daniel.
What? Yeah. Well, if this is the final one, I have to mention two things. First of all, as you guys said, being a part of a podcast and podcasting is really what keeps my interest alive. Meeting other persons, discussing, getting other opinions, and really using the knowledge for something, because all of us have, this great knowledge of Kiss. You want to do something with it, not just having it laying around. So I really enjoy talking to guys on the same level, Much as Ken has said in the past, I have no friends around here that can discuss Kiss on my level. But you guys can do that. And I'm a part of a few other Swedish podcasts as well. And that's just because of what we've done here. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known who I was. Because I live way up north among the polar bears and reindeer, so no one knew I was here. But because of what we've done, so I'm eternally grateful for you guys and letting me be on this podcast, and that has opened a lot of doors. So that's a big thing still to this day. I never thought it would make such an impact on my life. The day I emailed or PM'd Julian said, shouldn't we start a podcast way back in 2015? But it's really made a great impact, a great positive impact on my life, and I really look forward to when we can talk about Kiss stuff, and so it's just been great. But the other thing is actually listening to the back catalog. This past week was pretty shitty week at work. The headmaster or the principal, I don't know which one is the American way to say it. Well, principal, yeah. The principal has been really on my ass, trying to stop me from doing stuff, giving me more lessons than other teachers. You can handle it, Daniel. There's no problem. Here you have another lesson. So I have like 5 or 6 more lessons every week than the other teachers, and then we have a week when we can go and get some, we can go to a city and go and listen to other teachers, and it's like a week where you just go and listen to different workshops and stuff. Now she doesn't want me to go there. She wants me to, you should go, and there's a problem in one of the rooms. We need to get stuff out of there. But I said, call the janitor. He can do that. No, I need you to do that. So it was a really shitty week. You can't go and listen to those workshops in that city that you want to. You have to, clean out that room. Oh, my Lord. So then this Friday, I just went back home. I live by there's a river going through here. I live just by the river, so I put on my headphones, started a fire. It's getting kind of chilly here now, and then I put on Creatures of the Night, and then I was all good. So listening to the favorite records can really help you get through shitty stuff. So listen to the back catalog, and I tend to go to a few albums, not all of them. Creatures of the Night, I've understood, is one of them that really makes me feel better. Asylum is another one, and also Rock and Roll Over. So those 3 albums, when you have a shitty week, just put on the headphones, and I bought some new ones, really expensive ones, and then you're all right.
Nice. I like the sentiments of the medicinal value of Kiss, or any music that you love cannot be underplayed, and it really is. It's music for the soul. Mark.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep it short, but the one thing that definitely similarly to Daniel, whenever I need something medicinal that's surrounding Kiss, it goes back to something that you guys have already talked about. But for me, I'll say this: that when Shadow passed away just recently, I needed something to keep me distracted from constantly thinking about that whole situation and stuff like that. So one of the things that really helped in that was the books. Absolutely, because I found that when I got into the books, I just found myself in a world of, like a fantastic world of stuff like this one here that Alan did a
Oh
while
God, yeah.
back is a one that I like reading very much. He has some great pictures in this one, right? Just to show there, right?
Yeah.
And this is Kiss on tour from 74 to 83, right? It's a great read, and of course I've mentioned this one 100,000 times. It is still my go-to book, and as you can see, I still have my bookmark in there. I'm still going through stuff constantly. This book follows me everywhere in the house, and all over the place. Whenever I'm in the mood to read something.
Oh God, you both got pre-lawsuit covers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I
of
have
course,
that
there's other. I mean, Daniel showed The Oath. I have that as well, but I love going through this one too. The on tour books that he put out. In my bedroom, I have the Crazy Nights book. In the living room, I have the one that you just put out, the one around on Masked Era. There, I forget the title now.
Mask Hysteria.
Mask Hysteria. Yeah, that one I've went through it already 2-3 times. And I still find it fun to just open the book in the middle somewhere and just go through a random concert there and read it and stuff like that. And these books are important. I mean, I'll say this: I know they're a lot of work for Julian, and I know sometimes even when we just mention it in passing, just as friends when we chat on here, I know that there's a little bit of a sometimes when we talk about it with him, because I know it's a lot of work and he, it's time spent that he could be doing with family and stuff like that. But I'll tell you one thing: in a situation like I just went through with the whole dog thing and everything else, and even other times that have been rough, your books have been the thing that's gotten me out of a lot of negative situations, and I'm very grateful for them.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. Just to add one thing to a lot of work by Julian, don't forget a lot of that work was done by Tim, and a lot of the concepts were created by Tim, and he did all of the work of a lot of those interviews and hand transcribing. That guy doesn't get enough credit for the work that he does, even in War Machine, his interviews with some of the people who were involved in that era, which are still part of the FAQ websites.
Whatever happened to that guy?
We separated, and he moved on, to other things in life. So again,
he's like ended his Kiss thing.
I don't know these days. I'm not in close touch with him these days. But a lot of people do come in and go, and a lot of the work that any of us do or try and do has other people's impact on on tour. There were people before I did my on tour, even though I was working concurrently with them working independently on that. Alan does his thing. There are other people. The fanzine writers. I mean, if you could mention every single person who's done a fanzine from 1975, through the end of the paper fanzine runs, who interviewed band members, who wrote articles, who collected stuff from where they were publishing from. The Dutch fanzines are massive. LF in Japan, Nico.
Yeah.
Again, those people.
That's another episode we need to do someday. The fanzines. We're not touched on that, I think.
Oh God! I mean, Ron Roxburgh.
Firehouse magazine. Oh, that was my favorite.
Get me started on fanzines, because again, the original album Focus was born from the real work that the fanzines did, and some of the stuff I still do. is from interviews that were done by fanzines all over the world in different languages, different times. Ken, this was your topic, so it's only fair to let you have the final word on it today with your final pick for the show.
Yeah, well, it's the music and is important, and collecting vinyl has kind of been a thing.
Finals.
Yeah, vinyls. Even though a lot of the stuff is the colored vinyl now, and picture discs. Picture discs, are kind of cool. Some of them have been pretty good. I like the way that they have done those foil type covers and things. They're very, very, very cool. At least they put some more imagination into it now, the ones that they've been doing. Unfortunately, they're not releasing as many as they should, or pressing as many, but that's a cool thing. The other thing about vinyl itself collecting is finding the best sounding vinyl possible. I went back because I was almost going to trade a vinyl album, Kiss Dress to Kill promotional copy. I was almost going to trade it for something else from somebody. I wanted something else to trade, and I was kind of grading it and putting it on. That thing sounds so freaking good. That promotional copy is the best sounding copy of Dress to Kill I've ever heard. I mean, it sounds that good. I mean, and it's like very good plus kind of quality. It's very, no sound in it, quiet, no pops, no scratches, anything. And the music is just, wow. It just comes off of that. It's like, I like, no, keep this because it sounds like good. Because that's what it's all about for me is the best quality sounding, especially on the vinyl side of things. Best sounding vinyl album out there because it's albums are pressed here and there and everywhere and repressed in different times. Some are better than others. I mean, there's been some recent ones like Destroyer when they did the half speed. I think that one really sounds great. I think they did a great job on that one. So it can get better. It's hard to beat the original first ones, but I'm not gonna say
I want to see Germany.
Vinyl.
Remember, German Universal did those great repressings of best of solo albums on this black and white pepper splatter vinyls.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And also the Unmasked.
I had that.
Yeah, they did. No, was it them who did the? No, it was Kiss Killers because they did the 7-inch LP.
Kiss Killers,
Pardon me.
The Elder, they did a half speed, and that sounds.
Really they also did an incredible double platinum, didn't they?
Double platinum. There's the German one. Yeah.
German Universal did some very good stuff. Japan Universal or Mercury, whatever it is, there did the
CDs.
They did the
Japan.
MCQ CDs, which were absolutely stunning. They also did a 200-gram LP pressing of Mark's favorite album, which is
Destroyer.
actually, it's said by some to be the best sounding vinyl pressing of that album. So regardless of whether you like the album or not, if you want the very best quality to hate, that's apparently the one to have. So Ken's vinyl collecting is a great one, and again, it continues. I went to Amoeba last week for the first time in nearly a year, because in San Francisco, Amoeba's next to what was a McDonald's, and they tore it down to build affordable housing. The last time I was there, they hadn't torn it down. It was all gated off. And now there's like a 5-story building taking up the whole plot. So that's how long it had been since I'd been there. And, I did the going through the Kiss vinyl and the newly arrived stuff, and then spent way too much time in the jazz section looking for something. But, there were 3 7-inch singles there. And I was like, wow, A World Without Heroes. There was Calling Dr. Hard Luck Woman from Canada, because it was on a quality pressing with a Casbah label. I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, wait, no, writing on label, fuck that. But $4.99. I put them all back. I can't remember what the other one. Oh, it was I Was Made for Loving You, which had the block type on the label, which is a cool one to have, but I just couldn't be bothered to buy any of them. because it wasn't what I was looking for. So vinyl collecting, I think, will, for any Kiss fan, if they see vinyl, they'll go look. Is there any Kiss in there? Is that a live tune about the extra songs? Is it one of them? Is it a variant? Is it got a label? Or is it in nicer condition what I have? So vinyl collecting, hopefully, is, and the music, it's what it's all still about for everyone.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
There we are. I think we've reached the end of this episode. I want to thank everyone who's joined us live. You are far too many to read all your names today. It's been great. A ton of fantastic comments made during the show. If you're watching this or listening to us later, you know, what are the things that are keeping alive the spirit of Kiss for you? And how are you doing? And you need a safety check at, 9 months after the end, as we rapidly reach a year since Kiss called it the end of the road once and for all.
And thank you, Ken, for a great topic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And anyone who watches, chime in with topics on the message board or on YouTube. What are some topics that you think need to be talked about, discussed, revisited, reappraised, or what you just want to hear on a week-to-week basis. We have no structure and no plan these days. It's whatever catches our fancy, or who has some time to come up with something to talk about when we do these shows. But I guess that's it for now. From Ken, from Daniel, Mark, and myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.
Next week's topic